Welcome back, everybody. This is Jason, and I decided to do a video, just spur of the moment, to cover a couple more interesting pieces from my collection and also bring up a subject that I kind of want to talk about to clear up early on. I want to thank you all for coming back and for giving me more of your time. Your comments and support and graciousness has changed a lot for me. I sound shaky because, this morning I woke up and again I was emotional over many things, but getting so many subscribers so fast and the outpouring of love surprised me. I think it surprised me in the direction that I felt like people would be focused on the things I was showing rather than me as a person and also me as an artist. And I think that's the thing that's not that has touched my heart the most is the interest in me as an artist and as a human and what I do, not just on the things that I own. And I'll get into that more when I feel like I can. As to my gratefulness and my thankfulness, I again don't want to ever do shout outs or mention certain people, but most certainly I have to address this. Tanya at My Jewelry Addiction not only has become one of my most dearest friends, but an, not just a supporter, but an advocate for me and my life and my art. So thank you, Tanya, very much. Here I go again. And then on that note as well, I met Tanya on YouTube. I saw a bracelet on her live, and I took the chance and reached out to her, and I thought, am I going to get a box of rocks in the mail if I trust this woman who's a stranger to send me the bracelet? And sure enough, I got the bracelet, and now a friend that I will cherish for the rest of my life. And I adore you, Tanya. Also, a special thank you to Thelma Thrift. I still don't quite understand what I did to deserve your shout out and adoration for my channel. But whatever I did, I'm super thrilled that I did because we all look up to you in this community, rightfully so. You are, like I've said before, you're brilliant, you're beautiful, and you're honest and sincere, and you're willing to educate people and ease them into a world that they may not be familiar with. You are an absolute rock star, and I thank you very much. Someday I hope to be able to meet you or talk with you, Thelma. Just for everyone's knowledge, so I don't drone on about things, on the top of the page, a lot of my people that are starting to come in are local friends, people that I've built friendships with in this business, and coworkers. And so they understand there's the video tab. Right next to that is the shorts tab. Right next to that is the play sets. And then there's a community tab. On the community tab, I posted one video, which unfortunately isn't getting viewed because it's on the community tab and not very many people are going to it. It's a video on me, on my art that I did and my photography that I did for a show that I had with my friend Shireen. And I just hope that you can go and view that video so you may have a greater understanding as to me as an artist and a human, because a lot of you have been interested in that. And I'm not trying to veer off onto that direction, but at least that'll give you a glimpse of what I look like, who I am, how I act, and a greater understanding as to my art. Now that I tripped over all of that, you'll have to forgive me a little bit because as an artist, I'm used to making something to convey my message, and human words sometimes are a little difficult. As in that direction, I take a much different angle in life. I am not better than anyone, but I've completely said that I'm way different, and I'm very, very different. Some people may be somehow threatened by a bright light or something that is different. And then there's others that welcome that into their world. And I am so incredibly thankful that you've all given me just an opportunity to invite you into my world. And thank you for being here. What I do for work. I did take you on there's a short that I did take you to work with me briefly. It was the first part of the process. I'll just say it so everybody knows. I'm an auction advisor and curator with a company here in Ohio, and I've been with them for just over 2 years. Um, in this, we're loosely termed experts, and I'll get into this expert thing not only a little bit today, but also in the future. I think that's where I wanted to settle today, but now I'm not completely convinced that that's the direction I want to go. Challenges in my work have currently been AI and Google Lens, and over and over and over, I have completely beat them countless times. And that's not arrogant, that's not self righteous, it's truthful. I can Google Lens like anybody else, and Google Lens only goes so far. These are strictly my opinions. These are strictly the way that I construct what I do for work, and I don't have letters behind my name. My expertise has come from my education, but it's also come from my application of that information. I think when you get into calling someone an expert, it gets a little troublesome. If you have, let's just say, for example, you have a GIA certificate that you're a gemologist. I have corrected hundreds, if not thousands, of GIA appraisals from people who applied their information incorrectly. Again, this is just through my personal life. If you certify something as a blue topaz and it's a blue zircon, it's problematic because price per carat is vastly different. And that has happened. There's so many times. So I'm cautious and I caution people to take the word of an expert and do your further research. And today's video is going to show that. Again, I can get into greater depth, and I'm not just picking on one specific person, and I'm not coming for anyone. That's not my place. But what I'm saying is where I reside and what I do, because you have all asked. So I'm not coming for anyone, but my experience has what's escalated my position into some sort of an expert, if you will. I caution everybody with sellers, just be very careful. Buy what you love. That's what I'd like to say there. And buy what your intuition tells you to buy. And I wrote down a couple more things just as like bullet points, and I just don't feel like I want to settle into those just yet. Again, I'm stunned by your support and your gratefulness, and I just have to say that one last time because it's so important to me that you are here and that you are willing to allow me into your world, and I thank you very much for that. This first piece that you're viewing, and I put this crystal here just because I needed Mother Nature's help today to get me through today, and this rock crystal just it's just one of my favorites when it comes to gems and crystals, and I really love this, so it's helping me out today. We'll get back to this and refocus and prop this up. I'll take the crystal out. So the first piece that you're looking at, I have never really listened to what was told to me or bought things that other people said were important. And this is a classic example. In the summer of 1997, I went to an antique shop in Cleveland and I acquired this ring for $80. And there was something about it that, to me, the color wasn't right for blue topaz and the metal wasn't right for sterling silver. So I bought it for $80 and I bought it with my intuition that it wasn't blue topaz or sterling. And through a lot of research and a lot of time spent on it, I realized that the back of the shank was resized. So from here to here was resized. And as a metalsmith, I could see the difference of metal and also solder seams. And I realized that the hallmark had been sized out of the shank. So instead of sterling silver, that metal is platinum. It's 100% platinum. You can tell by how gray it is. You can tell by the matte finish and also the solder seams where it's put together. Anytime you get into this fancy scroll work, there's a tendency to have it made in platinum just because of it being strong enough to be able to stand up to wear. The stone itself is approximately 67 carats. And a few days after I bought it, I took it to an area shop, and my friend Terry, who is a gemologist, he put it on the RI machine, he got a reading, and 100% guaranteed it to be an aquamarine. It's of medium strong hue and very good clarity. Also, a difference between aqua and blue topaz that can help you. If you tip this stone and you look right in the center of the stone, I'm going to try and get it on film here. If you tip it, you'll start to see some angular needle-like inclusions, and you can kind of see them right there, right there. It's right where my nail is, right about there. You'll start to see some needle-like inclusions, telltale sign of aquamarine rather than blue topaz. So again, this ring and this stone being certified as an aquamarine in silver for $80. It turned into a ring that was platinum from the 1920s and a genuine aquamarine, which shifts the price to around $5,800 to $6,800. So again, quite a unfortunate blunder, but I'm not quite certain how it was labeled blue topaz and sterling when in fact it was aqua and platinum. So quite an incredible thing. The next piece that I wanted to cover is I could do a whole video on this, and I probably will, because I know that it's going to get a lot of attention. So I, again, followed my intuition on this day. I went to an area antique mall and somewhere I had been several times, and I bought this brooch for, I think it was $38, and then I got 10% off. I, as a student, went to Cranbrook Academy for a symposium, a 2-day field trip, and there was an exhibition of modernist jewelry from the modernist masters at Cranbrook. And there were pieces by Bertoia. And Harry Bertoia was a jeweler and a sculptor, and very well known for his ambient sound sculptures. So he was very well known as a sculptor and someone who made sound sculptures. So when you moved the rods, the sculpture would sing. He started life as a jeweler, and he was born in 1915, and I believe he died in 1978 from what I can remember. And he was most well known later in his life for his furniture designs, the diamond chair that he constructed. It was constructed out of wire. A lot of them were used in offices and libraries. And you probably remember them as a child because they were really uncomfortable. You would sit on the vinyl seat and it would stick to your butt when you'd get up out of the chair. And they were relatively uncomfortable, but beautifully constructed and modernist sculptures. And he was in the heart of the art to wear movement. And that was late 30s, early 40s. And this brooch is from the earliest portion of his career when he was making at Cranbrook Academy. So I was very drawn to this brooch because I had this feeling that it was of an accomplished hand. Back in the day, Harry Bertoia was catapulted into the spotlight at the Walker Center of Art exhibition. I think that was in 1948. You can double check that date. And this brooch is almost identical to the ones that were in the exhibition. I'm not exactly sure if he knew how to solder at that time, but none of this brooch is soldered. All of this brooch is cold connected. So you're looking at sterling silver, hand fabricated, and one of the most incredible and important modernist pieces that you will see outside of a museum when it comes to jewelry. So you've got two rivets here, which actually are the pin mechanism here. And then you have this long forged steel pin back, and it's passed through this other end as, again, a design element from the front. So you have this raised hump from the front, and then you have this elongated pin stem in the back, and then the clasp over here was not soldered, it was riveted in place, and then this opens up and allows the pin to be put on the clothing, and then this pushed back down. Because I'm a very, very detailed-oriented person, I looked and there's a lot of rust on the pin stem where it goes into the clasp, again, showing that this brooch has been around since the 1930s, 1940s. So again, something that really can't be faked or synthesized. It took me 3.5 years to authenticate this brooch and to have it documented that it is by Harry Bertoia. He does not sign his work. So again, I caution people that are consuming, buy what you like, buy what speaks to you, and listen to your intuition. Do further research later, and if you enjoy a piece, that's all that matters. But on something like this, it's extremely historically important. Bertoia is very well documented online. So if you want more information on his work and also the style of his work, go to harrybertoia.org, and that's Harry, Harry, and then it would be Bertoia, Bertoia. So harrybertoia.org for more information, because that's a website that I had went to for some assistance. I also reached out to a very prominent person. I'm not sure I'm allowed to mention her name, but I'll just say Mara Beth, and she was from California at the time. She had silverforum.com. She had some online, I guess now you know exactly who I'm talking about. Hopefully it's okay I mentioned her name. She assisted me in authentication on this piece, and then I had to go to an expert to get an appraisal. Cutting back to my intuition and to what I consider my guides in this business, and I am very much so into things that can't be explained from time to time, but sometimes we're given hints from somewhere else. I'm a Capricorn, and the day after I bought this, I cut this out of the paper. It says, "Get in the swing with style. A critical eye for fine detail and sensitive hands will make the things you touch just right." And I guess if I didn't have that message, I may not have thought more to do additional research to authenticate this piece. And now it's considered a national treasure. So very much so thankful for my ability to look at craft and design and not look at a price tag on something. The earrings that I'm showing you now, again, in a future video, I'd love to be able just to bring them back and to talk about them by themselves. These earrings were purchased at another antique mall for a mere $18. And this was way back in 1997 or 98. And in my haste, I almost made a mistake back then. And I learned very valuable lessons from the mistakes that I had made. And it's always best to admit those mistakes and then move forward. But don't pretend like you didn't make a mistake, because that's not attractive. I followed my guide on this, and I thought these were just beautiful, and they spoke to me on a level that of design that I hadn't seen before, anything that was unusual. I looked at the craft on these, and I realized that these were sand cast. So the back of these are, in fact, sand or tufa cast. We'll fight over that technical term at a different time. The back indicated that these were completely artisan constructed. And then the clipbacks to me said, I'm 1950, 1960, at the newest 1970. So I knew that these were quite vintage at the time. And I brought them home and I immediately listed them on eBay. I had bills to pay. I was fresh out of school, and in my haste, I wanted to pay my bills. So I believe I started them for my usual $9.99. And within just a matter of an hour, the offers were, please end this auction. Please sell me these. Please don't keep these on there. I need these because, or I need this because, a lot of stories. So I freaked out and I panicked and I removed them because I made a mistake. And I realized I made a mistake. And on eBay, you are allowed to pull your listing if you make a mistake. And thank God for that. So I pulled them off, and the offers were exorbitant. They were, one offer was about $5,000. So I realized that I needed to do further research. So I looked at this back and I saw this little scratch mark here, which I had photographed in the eBay listing. And I saw this scratch mark and it just looks like 3 scratches and then another scratch and then 3 scratches that resemble an M and then 3 scratches that look like an A and the word sterling. And again, because I'm a purist, I never polished my silver, and I still don't. And I would encourage all of you to do some research before you polish your silver. And the reason why is, if I would have polished these, I would have ruined an absolute national treasure. So these are by Charles Loloma. And Charles Loloma was an incredible Hopi silversmith. He was a master of design and of craft and quite the character. And someone that I looked up to as I was constructing and looking at his work and looking at his bezels and looking at his craft. These were made, they're probably some of his earliest. And I say that because experts in the field have reached out to me and have said they believe them to be literally some of his earliest, whether they be his exact earliest or within the first few years of production. That's what the experts have come up with. And if you look at the book on Charles Loloma, you will see an example of these in the book. The oxidation and the surface being so pure and honest, you do have some green oxidation there, and then you have some tarnish on this one. So amazing that I knew enough not to clean these, that I listened to my guide and listened to my voice and did not clean them. Charles Loloma, I believe he was born in January of 1921, and then I know that I'm fairly certain he passed in 1991. His early work is painfully hard to find, and I have more examples of his work, but these were the ones that I wanted to bring. So again, from $18 to a very large sum of money. So please be careful on hallmarks, please be careful on surface, and please try to keep our history that spanned before us safe and sound. And again, I will, if you would like, I would bring some other of his work to my videos. On to the last piece for today, because I do need to get some things done. This is not the original box, but I put it in this box to keep it safe. Oh, and as to my manicure, someone said that my painted nails were distracting in the videos. They absolutely are. So I'm going to put on a super sticker. So for like $4.99, you can get me a manicure. That was totally sarcasm, totally inappropriate, and it's funny as hell. But anyways, there I go. Probably lost 2 more viewers. Once in a lifetime find, a lot of people say, and again, it's kind of a term that just completely bothers me because it sets limits on what you're able to find. Amongst dealers, I think I owe an explanation that amongst dealers, the word sourcing does drive me crazy. It absolutely drives me up a wall. This sourcing thing, like where do you source to sell? I just don't understand it, because I've said before, if you turn on a light, these things will find you, and it's proof in this item. I again, as an artist, I'm gonna stumble over my words and probably sound remotely offensive sometimes, but I'm just showing you and trying to prove to you the way that I've done it. 20 years ago, I went to a safety deposit box auction in basically southern Ohio. It was relocated from Newark, New Jersey. The contents were relocated from Newark, New Jersey because you can't, at that time, you couldn't sell the contents of the safety deposit box in the state in which it came from. So it was relocated. I drove approximately 3 hours to attend the auction where the contents were being sold off. I had no idea of the provenance or the person or the people that these items came from. So I was at slightly a disadvantage, I would say. There were thousands and thousands of lots. There was everything from gold and silver to costume, designer pieces, contemporary, things from 1800, 1820, 1830, European cut diamonds. One ring in the sale sold for, I think it was around $75,000 or $85,000. And some of the lots went for, $50, $60, $70, $80. So the prices were all over the board. And it was interesting because there were so few people in the room. I kind of walked in there with my chest puffed up, like I was large and in charge. And boy, I learned very quickly those people in that room had a lot of money, and I was low man on the totem pole. So it was a real wake-up call, and it was an amazing auction. I'll say that. When I went into the preview, my heart skipped a beat when I saw it was lot 5. I'll never forget it. I do have some lucky numbers. 5 is one of them, and 15 is another one. But this piece was wrapped up in a bag. And it was not only wrapped up in a bag, but it was with loose stones and loose crystals. Okay. So it was not really thought of. It was not really revered. It was just a sculpture. There was nothing about it that read as what its function was. So I love the loose stones, and this appeared to be brass. And when I saw it, I was instantly sure that it was important. I was instantly certain that it was something that was rare and something that was important. And my first intuition, which was way off, was that it was Picasso, or it was Miro, or it was a modern sculpture that was cast as a one of a kind. Which it most certainly is. It is a one of a kind. So I didn't really know for sure, but I have a joke that I worked for Dionne Warwick and the Psychic Friends network. And, I was taught by Dionne Warwick and the Psychic Friends to know what things were. But my intuition told me that I had to buy this. I just had to buy this. And I'm so grateful that I listened to my intuition, that I listened to that internal voice that I was definitely born with. The auction started, and before you knew it, within seconds, I was the proud owner of the bag and the contents. And I bid $50 because that was the opening bid, and no one else bid on the piece. So I won it for $50. And after a long drive home, I was eager to research it. And this is, pre-Google, pre-Google Lens, pre-searching online. This is pre-cell phone, by the way. This was before I even had a cell phone, before I even had a flip phone. So as a kid driving home, I ran for my books. I ran for my historical books. I ran for my price guides. I ran for anything that could give me photographs of possibly what this was. And I couldn't find anything. So I had taken some items to an auction facility in Cleveland. I will not mention any names, but I took it up there. I left it there for, shall I say, examination and identification. I consigned the prints and the etchings at the time. And this was the only piece that I asked for back because it was identified and certified, if you listen closely to this, as a French bronze page turner and then a dash 19th century. So they were saying this sculpture or object was a French page turner, meaning a thing that would turn pages in a book. I saw no resemblance to a page turner. I saw no resemblance to French, and I most certainly didn't know the metal content. So I asked for it back. They gave it back to me, got it back in a couple of weeks, and I put it back in a box and I just put it away because I was pretty offended. The pre-auction estimate being $200 to $300. I knew that something so foreign in form and design needed more research. So about 8 years of additional research and looking through, again, more research books, I saw a tiny black and white picture of one that was very similar to this, and it was identified as a pre-Columbian gold effigy. And they identified it and dated it to be 900 to 1100 AD. So I instantly at that time called for my landline and I phoned a friend, to say the least. And he was a very well-known expert in very early things, both Egyptian and pre-Columbian. He was an expert in Egyptology, and he actually did excavations and helped with digs in Egypt at the time. So an absolute expert, hands down, for sure an expert. I then called a friend after I talked with him. He pushed me to get a test of the metal, and he wanted it to be broken down. So I phoned another friend and I got this report. So I took this statue to a person in the business who had it's an XRF machine, and this one was by Nav's Tools, and in 3.4 seconds, 3.4 seconds, the machine, once the item was placed on the machine and an x-ray was taken of it, it came back as 13 karat gold. Not 10 karat, not 14 karat, not 18 karat. It came back as 13 karat. And the breakdown is as follows. AU, which is gold, 53.82, and then the 1.07 was a readout to give the, I believe, to calculate the caratage. And then the AG, which is silver. Thank God I listened in school, by the way, because I did pay attention to periodic tables when I was in school. I didn't pay attention to much, but it had 7.00 in silver. And then copper was 38.61. And then the interesting thing that helped me later, that bothered me when I had this tested, but that helped me out later, was PB, which we know is lead. And the lead content was 0.834 of lead. So that bothered me when I was there. And I said, why is there lead in my gold? Well, what helps to authenticate this as an original pre-Columbian piece was the presence of lead. And when you think about it, they were just taking the metal out of the ground and they were putting other metals in to make it stronger. And then you came up with 13 karat gold with a slight trace of lead, which is what has helped identify this as pre-Columbian gold. It weighs several ounces. I'm not going to give a specific on how many ounces it is, but it's very heavy, and it is basically the closest date they can get is between 900 and 1100 AD. It may be 1200 or 1300 AD as well. Very difficult to tell, but on this, you'll see on the bottom here, this knob. As a metalsmith, I knew what this was. This is the sprue system. So as a sprue, this is where the gold was poured in to create this. So where this was invested, the gold was poured in, and they left the sprue system on. They did not remove that. In normal jewelry, or rings, or bracelets, or contemporary pendants, they pour this in to create a pendant, and then they will remove all this. They will cut this off at the jewelry store to create a wearable piece of jewelry. This was not a wearable piece of jewelry. Its only job was to be an effigy, And votive offering, basically, is what it's considered. I did go to the Cleveland Museum of Art and I looked at their pre-Columbian collection, and they have a large holding of these. But again, this would be about 3 to 4 times larger than the largest one that they have in their holdings. So that concludes today's video. You all always ask about my rings as well, so I'm not going to leave you out. An award-winning diamond and silver ring that I bought at an international show. We'll get into that goodness at another video. I couldn't believe that diamonds were pave set on the inside of a ring and then on the inside of the shank system. So really, truly love that. And then a ring that I constructed, and I'll get into this one in a later video as well. But it's a Jabo marble that was created by the Jabo company, and it was malformed. So I had a friend who's a glass artist, Mary, who lives, I think now in New Jersey. She slagged it down, so she melted it down, or slumped it down, and created a stone. And then I came home and created a bezel and the classic, Native American style split shank on the sides, and I bezel set the stone. That concludes the video for today. I'm so glad for all your graciousness. I don't really know how else to quantify it, and I decided that to talk about the love that I feel is inappropriate and inadequate. So I'm going to make something. I'm going to go back into the studio and I'm going to create something to express my gratitude to each and every person that comes here and to each and every person that gives me your time. Again, humbled and grateful. I wish you the best of days today. I love you all very much. Bye-bye.